In Mississippi, there were news laws passed. Some argue disproportionately impact people of color and could be seen as reminiscent of the Jim Crow era. Some of these laws include restrictions on mail-in voting, new identification requirements for absentee ballots, and limits on ballot drop boxes. Supporters of the laws argue that they are necessary to ensure the integrity of elections and prevent voter fraud, but critics argue that they are designed to make it more difficult for certain groups of people to vote. This raises concerns about the impact of these new laws on the ability of people of color to vote in Mississippi and suggests that they may be part of a larger trend of voter suppression efforts across the United States. There is concern over the use of the Capitol Police force to enforce new voting laws that have been likened to Jim Crow-style legislation. This is particularly noteworthy given that the bill was originally championed by Democrat Nancy Pelosi, yet is now being utilized by Republicans. The decision to defund state police in favor of a new, less accountable force with seemingly unlimited funding has raised questions about the motives and priorities of those involved. Some have suggested that the appearance of opposition and conflict may have been disingenuous, and that the creation of this new police force represents a troubling shift in law enforcement practices. These new laws will strip power from the local Democratic government and give it to Republicans who control the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police was intended to protect state and federal Capitol property as well as members of Congress and their families. In 1974, the Cooperative Use Act was created, revamping the United States Capitol Police. The document includes the original text of the legislation and provides background information on why the Capitol Police were created. The Capitol Police was originally created mid-1800s. Since its creation, 2 officers were killed, once in 1828 and in 2021 during the Capitol riots. Months after the attack, they got a huge increase in funding. There was some initial disagreement among Democrats regarding funding for the Capitol Police. While House Speaker Nancy Pelosi pushed for a $1.9 billion funding allocation, members of the Progressive Caucus, known as the Squad, expressed reservations. It is notable, however, that despite the passage of the funding bill, Pelosi's husband was recently the victim of an attack by an intruder. Given that the Capitol Police are responsible for protecting Congress and its members, this incident raises questions about the efficacy of the security measures in place. The U.S. Capitol Police have been facing questions about their accountability and transparency, as well as their ample budget and lack of public scrutiny. In an article published on January 12, 2021, The Washington Post noted that Congress has periodically considered changes to the police force over the past 15 years but has largely left it impervious to public scrutiny. Despite boasting a $516 million budget, which is more than twice the spending on police in Atlanta and 1.5 times the spending in Detroit, reports by the force's Office of Inspector General are kept under wraps, and the Capitol Police, like Congress, are not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. The police force also releases little public information, even after calamitous incidents, such as the pro-Trump mob that overran the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. 6 days after the incident, the department had still not held a news conference to explain the security breach or to highlight the heroism of individual officers. Additionally, the department had not released the name and employment records of the officer who fatally shot Trump supporter Ashley Babbitt. The long-standing issues with the Capitol Police's accountability and transparency have come under increased scrutiny in the wake of the events of January 6, 2021, and lawmakers may now be forced to consider making changes to the police force to increase public oversight and accountability. In conclusion, the recent voting laws in Mississippi have raised concerns about the potential impact on people of color, and whether they are part of a larger trend of voter suppression efforts in the United States. The use of the Capitol Police to enforce these laws also raises questions about the accountability and transparency of the police force, as well as their robust funding. Additionally, recent events, such as the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband and the Capitol riots, have highlighted the need for increased oversight and accountability of the Capitol Police. As lawmakers consider potential changes to the police force, it will be important to balance the need for security with the need for transparency and accountability in law enforcement practices.